For 16 years, he was number 2 on FBI's most wanted list, right after Osama bin Laden. But his capture was pure chance. A neighbor recognized him on TV. This is Whitey Bulger's story, the FBI's biggest mistake and America's longest fugitive chase. Welcome to Iron Will Stories. Tonight we're telling you America's most scandalous crime story. James Whitey Bulger's 30-year FBI cooperation and 16-year life on the run. This is an Iron Will story of how the FBI was deceived by the monster they created. In the 1970s, James Whitey Bulger was the most powerful man in Boston's South Side. At 41, with his white hair and ice-blue eyes, he was the leader of the Irish-American Mafia. Boston had 3 major powers: the Italian Mafia, Irish gangs, and the FBI. Whitey had managed to control all 3. As leader of the Winter Hill Gang, he was involved in every type of crime: drug trafficking, gun running, extortion, murder. But most importantly, he was extremely intelligent. "I'm a criminal," Whitey would say, "but I'm not stupid." In 1975, he received an offer that would change his life. FBI Agent John Connolly came to visit him. "Whitey, I have a proposal. Work with us, and I'll protect you." "What kind of work?" "Information about the Italian Mafia, the Patriarca family, their Boston operations. You against them, we won't be against you." Whitey accepted this offer, but on his own terms. Have you ever had to form an alliance with your enemy? Type FBI alliance. From 1976, Whitey became the FBI's official informant. Codename BS1544-TE, Top Echelon Informant. But this wasn't ordinary cooperation. Whitey had known Agent Connolly since childhood. They'd both grown up in the same neighborhood. "Johnny," Whitey would say, "you rise in the FBI, I'll get stronger on the streets. We both win." And here's how the system worked. Whitey would give the FBI information about the Italian Mafia. The FBI would arrest the Italians. Whitey's territory would expand. As Whitey grew stronger, he'd give more valuable information to the FBI. His first big success came in 1978. With information provided by Whitey, the FBI arrested 15 members of the Patriarca family. The Italian Mafia in Boston took a major hit, but nobody realized that these arrests served Whitey's interests. When his rivals went to prison, he became the sole ruler of Boston. By the 1980s, Whitey had built not just the Winter Hill Gang, but the Winter Hill Empire. Agent Connolly became a hero at FBI headquarters. Most successful informant operation, they called it. The truth was, the FBI wasn't protecting Whitey. Whitey was using the FBI. Have you ever been used by someone you thought you were using? Type double game. In the 1980s, Whitey's power was at its peak, but this power was built with blood. While under FBI protection, Whitey killed at least 19 people, and the FBI knew about it. The Brian Halloran incident was the most tragic. Brian was considering giving information to the FBI about Whitey. Agent Connolly told Whitey about this. "Whitey, Brian's trying to sell you out." 3 days later, Brian Halloran was murdered. Whitey's men gunned him down in broad daylight. FBI report. "For the security of our informant, Brian Halloran's FBI cooperation will be kept secret." So the FBI turned a blind eye to Brian's death to protect Whitey. In 1981, the John McIntyre incident occurred. He was going to report Whitey's gun smuggling to the FBI. Connolly warned Whitey again. McIntyre disappeared. His body was found 20 years later. FBI internal memo. "Our top echelon informant program must not be compromised." So the FBI would protect Whitey even if it meant murder. During this period, Whitey wasn't just a criminal, he had become a serial killer under FBI protection. Would you sacrifice justice for security? Type security versus justice. In the 1990s, everything started to change. The FBI's Internal Affairs Unit began investigating Connolly. When new FBI agents looked at Whitey's file, they were shocked. The informant they'd been protecting for 20 years was actually Boston's biggest crime boss. In 1994, a federal grand jury prepared an indictment for Whitey. Charges: racketeering, drug trafficking, extortion, money laundering. Agent Connolly warned Whitey, "Whitey, they're coming to arrest you. Run." And Whitey ran. But this wasn't just an escape. It was the result of 30 years of preparation. False identities, secret banks, safe houses. Whitey had planned everything. He disappeared from Boston with his girlfriend Catherine Greig. Last place he was seen, Logan Airport. The FBI's most valuable informant had now become their most wanted fugitive. From 1995 to 2011, Whitey was like a ghost. Number 2 on the FBI's most wanted list, $2 million reward. But he was hiding perfectly. The first years were spent in Europe, London, Paris, Dublin, traveling with fake passports, using only cash, leaving no trace. In the 2000s, he returned to America. But nobody suspected. He was living in Santa Monica, California, using the names Charles and Carol Gasco with Catherine. Luxury apartment, quiet retired couple. Their neighbors loved them. "Charlie is such a nice man," neighbor Barbara would say. "He takes walks every morning, very polite." For 16 years, Whitey had maintained perfect camouflage. The FBI's former informant was now the perfect civilian. But he had one weakness: watching TV. In June 2011, the FBI tried a new strategy. In most wanted ads, they focused not on Whitey, but on Catherine. "Do you recognize this woman?" they asked on TV. A woman named Anna Bjornsdottir was watching the ad. "That woman is Carol from our apartment building," Anna called the FBI. "The woman you're looking for lives in Santa Monica at Princess Eugenia Apartments." The FBI surrounded the apartment in 15 minutes. When the door was knocked, Catherine answered, "Yes." "FBI, hands up." Whitey came from behind, 81 years old, hair completely white, but his eyes still ice blue. "Who are you?" he said to the FBI agents. "Are you Charles Gasco?" "Yes." "No, you're James Bulger. We've been looking for you for 16 years. Whitey smiled. "Okay, you got me." They found 30 weapons, $822,000 in cash, and fake identity documents in the apartment. America's longest fugitive life had ended with a neighbor's tip. How do you get caught after hiding for 16 years? Type neighbor tip. In 2013, the trial began. 83-year-old Whitey sat in the defendant's chair. The charges were horrific: 19 murders, racketeering, extortion, money laundering, drug trafficking. The most dramatic moment was the testimony of victims' families. Patricia Donahue spoke about her husband, Michael's murder. In 1982, Michael was waiting in the car. Whitey mistook him for Brian Halloran and killed him. Wrong man, father of 3 children. He was innocent. Tommy King's family. Tommy was Whitey's rival. He killed him and hid the body. We didn't know where he was for 30 years. Debbie Davis's family. Debbie was Whitey's girlfriend. She knew too much, so he killed her. During every testimony, Whitey sat expressionless. He showed no remorse. Defense attorney: "My client was an FBI informant. He had an immunity agreement." Prosecutor: "There's no immunity for murder." Finally, the jury's verdict: guilty on 30 out of 31 charges. Sentence: 2 life sentences plus 5 years. At 83, Whitey went to prison. In October 2018, Whitey was killed at Hazleton Federal Penitentiary. He was 89 years old. 2 inmates killed him in his cell. It was an organized hit, revenge from old enemies. Whitey's last words: "I was never afraid. Never." FBI Agent John Connolly also received 40 years for racketeering in 2008 for protecting Whitey. In 2020, the FBI issued an official apology. The Whitey Bulger case is one of the biggest mistakes in our history. We failed to protect civilians. A memorial was built in Boston for Whitey's victims' families. 19 names are written on it. Catherine Gregg served 8 years in prison. Released in 2020, she now lives quietly. Whitey Bulger's story shows this. Iron will can be used on both sides. Whitey's iron will made him the FBI's most valuable informant for 30 years. But the same iron will led him to 19 murders. The FBI's iron will was their determination to end organized crime. But this determination led them to turn a blind eye to innocent deaths. The dark side of iron will. Considering everything permissible for your goal. Whitey was never caught for 50 years because the FBI protected him. Then he lived as a fugitive for 16 years because he had planned perfectly. But in the end, justice showed its iron will. It took 30 years, but Whitey was held accountable. True iron will, no power is stronger than justice. Whitey Bulger's story shows the FBI's darkest period. For 30 years, they fed a monster, then fought that monster for 16 years. But the story also shows this. Everything built with iron can be destroyed with iron will. Whitey derived his power from FBI protection. In the end, the same FBI caught him and tried him in court. Subscribe to Iron Will Stories. Don't miss the dark stories of powerful characters. If this story affected you and you understood that there's no escape from justice, write Iron Will Justice in the comments. Remember, the strongest iron will is the one that serves justice.